Hello there. In a world that never sleeps, neither does wonder. Welcome to the Sleepless Scrolls, where your imagination can roam even while you rest. Wherever you are, curled beneath blankets, resting under stars, or listening while a ceiling fan hums above, take a moment. What time is it in your world? Midnight? 3:07 a.m? Sunrise maybe? Tap the comments when you're awake. If you ever are again, just kidding, probably. Tonight we embark on a journey inward, deeper than oceans, more expansive than galaxies. This isn't just about sleep, it's about the strange, shimmering phenomenon that waits behind your eyelids when the world goes still. Dreams? You close your eyes, darkness pours in, but something strange begins to stir. You feel it before you see it. The first curl of drifting, the soft tug at your consciousness like a tide drawing away from shore. The sounds of your waking world begin to fade. The hum of the fan, the distant bark of a dog, the mechanical groan of a refrigerator all begin to wash into silence. Inside, your mind doesn't fall asleep. Not really. It lifts off. The human brain remains active during sleep, almost as active as when you're awake, especially during REM, that rapid eye movement phase where dreams bloom wildly. Scientists have recorded this. Sudden spikes in brainwaves, flashes of activity that resemble conscious thought. Despite your muscles being paralyzed in sleep's embrace, you're not just resting, you're voyaging. And though no one really knows why you dream, everyone does it. From billionaire tech titans to wild hermits in mossy cabins, from newborns in bassinets to the elderly on memory's edge. Dreams come to everyone, carrying messages, nonsense, laughter, longing, fear. Even fetuses in the womb have been observed showing signs of REM sleep. Even they, floating in amniotic shadow, may be dreaming of something. Strange, isn't it? And while your physical world stills, your heart slows, your breath lengthens, the mind lights its stage. Scenery appears from nowhere. You may be in your grandmother's kitchen again, except now it floats in a rainforest and her cat is whispering stock tips. You accept this without question. In dream logic, everything makes perfect sense until you wake. This is the dream world, limitless, lawless, and profoundly personal. It's where your memories stretch into new shapes, where fears put on masks, where fragments of your day collide with childhood ghosts. In the absence of external input, your brain begins to sculpt from the clay of itself. But why? That's the riddle. Scientists still argue whether dreams serve a function, like emotional regulation or memory consolidation, or if they're just the mind's idle static, a side effect of housekeeping. Sigmund Freud, of course, believed dreams were windows into our unconscious desires, coded messages from the id. But even in his day, that was a fringe idea to many. Carl Jung saw dreams as part of a collective mythos, symbols we all inherit. Others simply see noise. And yet, why are dreams often so vivid, so structured? Why do they feel as real as this very moment? There's a theory, you might like this, that dreaming is a form of internal simulation, a kind of evolutionary training ground. While you sleep, your brain practices scenarios, escaping threats, navigating social conflict, solving puzzles. Some scientists think dreams helped early humans survive. Here's a curious historical fact. In ancient Egypt, dream interpretation was a respected science. Pharaohs kept dream books. High priests were trained not just in rituals, but in deciphering the strange theatre of the night. Dream omens guided real-world decisions from marriage to war. Imagine invading a kingdom based on what a bird did in your dream. And here's something weirder. Some researchers believe animals dream, not just primates, but even benthic rats. In one study, rats ran mazes by day, and their brain activity during REM sleep at night mirrored the same patterns, as if they were rerunning the maze in their sleep, practicing, learning. So tonight, as your breathing softens and your limbs grow heavy, remember, your brain is preparing to dream not out of habit, but maybe, just maybe, as rehearsal. It's one of the only times you're truly free. No gravity, no pain, no clocks, just you, and whatever your mind decides to show you. And still, Science doesn't fully know where in the brain dreams arise. The limbic system, the prefrontal cortex, the pons. It's like trying to find the projector in a cinema that has no walls. There's activity everywhere, yet no central command, just chaos with meaning stitched inside. Or maybe none at all. A fringe theory called proto-consciousness proposes that dreaming is a primitive form of awareness, that long before full consciousness evolved, something dreamlike existed in the sleeping brains of early creatures. That dreams came before thought, before language. Can you imagine that? Not knowing who or what you are, just floating images, colours, sensations. The earliest awareness might have been this, not a thought but a dream. So perhaps you're not just watching dreams tonight, you're joining an ancient lineage. As your breathing deepens and your eyes flutter beneath closed lids, the story will continue without you needing to turn a page. You are here and not here, awake and not awake. In this strange borderland between night and self, this is only the beginning. There are places still to go, animal minds to visit, nightmares to walk through, machines that might one day record your dreams like films. But for now, rest, drift. The curtain has risen. Your mind is entering the dream. The world outside falls away. Your muscles have gone slack, your limbs unmoving. But somewhere deeper, something ancient stirs. Your mind begins to rewind time, not in memory, but in biology. As your breathing slows and your brain enters the first stages of sleep, you are slipping into a state once shared by creatures who roamed this planet long before humans ever dreamed of dreaming. Because before you, before cities, satellites, or languages, other beings closed their eyes to rest. And what they saw in that darkness, that's where we go now. You're floating inside the skull of a reptile, not a dragon or serpent of myth, but something cold-blooded and real. Maybe it's a Nile crocodile, eyes half-lidded beneath a sunken swamp. Or perhaps a bearded dragon, sleeping in its terrarium, skin pulsing faintly under heat lamps. They sleep, but do they dream? For decades, scientists believed only mammals experienced REM sleep, that flickering brain-active phase where dreams most vividly occur. Then came birds, then lizards. In 2016, researchers discovered that the Australian bearded dragon experiences REM-like sleep cycles. Their brains hum in nightly rhythms, flipping between slow-wave and fast-wave phases, just like yours. Could that mean even reptiles dream? It's likely their dreams aren't like yours, no storylines or metaphors. Maybe it's just flashes of hunting, warmth, escape, but still the architecture is there. A primitive form of the same dreaming engine flickers in the brains of creatures that crawled the earth 300 million years ago. You're not alone in dreaming, you never were. Birds too are vivid dreamers. Zebra finches sing in their sleep. Their brains replay the same neural patterns used during daytime song, as if practicing their melodies in the dark. Scientists placed tiny electrodes in their heads and listened. What they heard was music rehearsed in REM sleep, silent concerts in moonlight. It's almost poetic, isn't it? A bird dreaming of song, and dolphins. Now there's a twist. Dolphins don't sleep like you do. They engage in unihemispheric slow-wave sleep. That means half their brain stays awake while the other half rests. One eye open, one closed. They drift through the water, half conscious, never fully surrendering. Yet even they show signs of REM activity. So even a creature split between two minds may still visit the land of dreams. Here's your quirky tidbit. Octopuses change colour while they sleep. Their skin pulses with shifting hues, camouflage patterns they use while awake. Scientists think this may be linked to REM-like sleep. Some researchers speculate that they might be dreaming about hunting or hiding or mating. Imagine an octopus beneath the sea, skin flashing with silent shifting memories, like a movie projector with no audience but the creature itself. Dreams, then, might not be exclusive to you. They may be stitched deep into the fabric of life. And what does that mean? If dreaming is this ancient, this widespread, could it serve a deeper purpose than we understand? Evolution doesn't keep useless things for long, but scientists still argue whether dream sleep actually benefits animals. Is it a byproduct of brain complexity, or does it help with survival by improving memory, honing instincts, or simply preserving neural connections? We don't know, but the patterns are too precise to ignore. Think of the platypus, that bizarre creature from Australia with the bill of a duck and the tail of a beaver. It spends nearly 8 hours a day in REM sleep, more than almost any other mammal. But why? What could such a creature possibly need to dream about? This is the mystery. Evolution doesn't explain everything. Sometimes biology offers us a puzzle with no clear picture. And while you lie still in bed, your own dreams are forming on the same blueprint as these strange ancestors. A thread connects you, from you to chimpanzees, from chimps to lemurs, from lemurs to reptiles, and perhaps even farther back. Imagine now the first fish to doze in the shadow of prehistoric kelp forests, or the first amphibian, eyes half-lidded beneath fern fronds, twitching in its sleep. Did it dream of water, of danger, or did it just flicker with echoes of light and motion? Because if the roots of dreaming stretch back to before language, before thought, before even lungs, then dreaming isn't just a feature of your mind, it might be the original mind, a consciousness without self, just feelings, instincts, sparks of possibility replayed behind closed eyes. That's where dreams may have begun. It's humbling, isn't it? To think that your fantastical dreams, the ones where you fly or speak to long-lost loved ones, or find yourself running through impossible cities, are built on neural patterns that were once used by creatures who never spoke, never named the stars, never built fire, but they dreamed, or something like it. And tonight, as your body lies suspended in stillness, your brain joins that ancient lineage. Flickering lights behind your eyes connect you to finches and felines, to cuttlefish and kangaroos. You're not just dreaming in the now, you're dreaming in deep time, and yet your dreams will be yours alone, unique, personal. No matter how ancient the mechanism, no one else will ever dream your exact dream. That story belongs to you. And already behind the veil of sleep, the first scene begins to take shape. A field, a door, a sound, something from your past, something impossible, something just a little off. You don't question it, you never do, because here in the world of dreams, even the strange feels natural. That's the magic of it, and the mystery. Tonight, you share that magic with creatures who never knew your name, never walked upright, never wrote a word, but dreamed nonetheless, in their own ancient way. And as you breathe deeper and REM sleep begins to creep in, your dreams will rise to join theirs, flickering, glowing, growing. You are ready now to pass through that door, the one that opened in darkness, the one that never really closed. Your mind drifts further inward now, past the shadows of instinct and memory, into the realm of design. You're not simply a creature dreaming, you're a machine wired for it. The night theatre of the brain is open, and you are both the audience and the stage. You don't feel the shift, but it begins in the pons, an almond-sized nub at the base of your brainstem. This is where REM sleep sparks to life. Electrical signals fire upward from the pons, like the quiet ignition of a backstage generator, lighting up pathways to the thalamus, which in turn floods your cerebral cortex. It's like a curtain rising, unseen but unstoppable. Your eyes, though closed, begin to twitch. This is the only outward sign of what's unfolding deep inside, the mysterious process that transforms thought into hallucination. Your brain is about to create a world that does not exist. The cortex, the very surface of your brain, the part responsible for consciousness, imagination, and reason, begins to hum with erratic electricity. Some areas go quiet, others light up with startling intensity. The prefrontal cortex, the seat of logic and planning, dials way down. But the limbic system, the emotional core, starts to blaze. In dreams, your feelings take the wheel. That's why your dreams feel so real, even when they're absurd. You're not analysing them, you're living them. Your brain suppresses the regions responsible for doubt and critical reasoning, allowing narratives to unfold unchallenged. The impossible becomes ordinary. You walk through fire, you fly without fear, you talk to someone long gone, and believe in that moment they are truly there. Inside your skull, the show is wild and untethered, but it's not random, not exactly. Scientists once believed dreams were just the result of leftover neural signals, static. But modern research shows that REM sleep has structure. The dreaming brain organizes memories, files, emotions, even experiments with alternate outcomes. You might relive a conversation you had earlier, but in your dream you say what you wish you'd said. Or maybe you don't remember the conversation at all, but the emotion of it, the tension, the regret, returns in metaphor, cloaked in a different scene. That awkward moment at the grocery store becomes a storm you can't escape. A missed opportunity becomes a sinking ship. You're watching your own emotional weather form and dissipate. Here's a curious historical note. In 1953, Eugene Aserinsky and Nathaniel Kleitman first discovered REM sleep in humans, using electrodes to monitor eye movements in sleeping children. It changed everything. Until then, dreams were considered literary, mystical, impossible to measure. But when those little eyes began to dart behind closed lids, the science of dreaming was born. And here's a quirk for you. Dreams are often more vivid in the second half of the night. That's because REM periods lengthen as sleep progresses. Your early dreams are short, flickering, maybe just whispers of story. But by morning, REM can last 45 minutes at a time. You may spend 2 full hours dreaming each night, and you'll forget 95% of it. But your brain remembers, in its own way. It processes fear, softens trauma, rehearses speech, reruns motion. There's a theory that dreams help us maintain sanity, giving the brain a sandbox to work out unresolved tension. Some experiments have shown that people deprived of REM sleep experience irritability, hallucinations, and memory issues. Scientists still argue whether REM sleep is essential for all cognitive functions, or if it plays only a supporting role. But what's clear is this: when the REM machine is interrupted, something in the psyche begins to fray. Imagine now you're lying in a sleep lab, dozens of wires pasted to your head. The machine beside your bed hums softly, tracking every electrical twitch of your neurons. A researcher sits behind glass, watching the rhythms of your sleep cycle. And then, the moment comes, a sudden burst of brain activity. Your eyes begin to flick. REM has arrived. They wake you gently, asking, "What were you dreaming?" Sometimes the answer is a vivid saga, running through a forest of teeth, talking to an owl, finding a door where a mirror should be. Sometimes it's only a feeling, warm, lonely, panicked, free. And sometimes you remember nothing at all. This too is part of the puzzle. Why do some dreams linger while others vanish instantly? There's no consensus. It may depend on the timing of your awakening, whether you are in REM or deep sleep, or on neurotransmitters like norepinephrine, which drop sharply during REM, possibly impairing memory encoding. It's as if the dream is never meant to be remembered, just felt. Your brain is performing art without an audience. You may wonder, how does the brain generate these vivid images, sounds, sensations, all without external input? The answer lies in the same structures you use when awake. The visual cortex still sees, the auditory cortex still hears. Only now the input is internal. There's a scene you may remember, though it's not a real one. You're walking along a beach. The waves are warm and violet. The sun pulses like a jellyfish. You're holding a seashell, but it's made of glass, and inside it is your childhood dog, looking at you with knowing eyes. You don't question it. You accept it. You love it. That's the theatre of the brain. A stage where logic is dimmed and emotion writes the script. A show where symbolism speaks louder than plot, where everything you felt, guilt, joy, fear, longing, can take on physical form. This is why, despite their strange architecture, dreams can change how you feel when you wake. One dream can haunt you for days, another can bring you peace you didn't know you needed. And perhaps the most mysterious part? You create it all. You are the characters, you are the scenery, you are the weather and the soundtrack, and somehow you manage to surprise yourself. That alone is a marvel. No AI, no supercomputer, no painting, poem or film can yet match the surreal elegance of a single dream. Because it is built not just from logic, but from memory, emotion, biology and imagination, woven together in real time night after night. Your dreaming brain is the oldest storyteller you know, and tonight it continues its quiet work, sculpting worlds, resolving questions, hiding clues, testing truths, without asking permission, without waking you. So you drift on deeper into the story, trusting the machine behind the curtain. Let it build. Let it show you what only you can see. Now you find yourself standing at the very edge of consciousness, a place where waking awareness brushes softly against the veil of dream. The air feels strange here, denser, charged. You may not realize it, but you're approaching a secret door, a rarely noticed crossing, a boundary that only a few ever pass through while still knowing what they are. It's the edge of lucidity. You're dreaming, but you know it. This moment is subtle, like catching your own reflection in a window you didn't know was there. Perhaps you notice a street sign that keeps changing words, or the moon has two shadows, or someone you love appears with the wrong voice. Something twitches in your awareness. A thought rises slowly. Wait, am I dreaming? Lucid dreaming, when the sleeper becomes aware they're in a dream, is one of the most mysterious states your mind can enter. Unlike regular dreams where you're a passenger, here you become the pilot, the director. The dream doesn't vanish, but it responds. You can walk through walls, fly over mountains, speak to a version of yourself you've never met. And through it all, part of you remains awake. Scientists have proven its existence. In controlled lab settings, lucid dreamers have been able to communicate with researchers while fully asleep. How? By using their eyes. In REM sleep, while the body is paralyzed, the eyes can still move. Some lucid dreamers are trained to move their eyes in prearranged patterns, left, right, left, signaling they've awakened inside the dream. It's one of the few times consciousness and dreaming truly overlap. How strange, then, to think your mind can be both asleep and aware, like standing in two worlds at once. Lucid dreaming isn't rare, but sustained lucidity is. About half of people have experienced it at least once. Fewer can enter it regularly. Fewer still can control it. Maybe you've had a taste. You fall through the sky, heart pounding, and suddenly think, this isn't real. Then, as if catching your own thought in your hands, you begin to float. Your fear dissolves. You're flying now. Really flying. You turn, the world turns with you. It's yours. But don't celebrate too soon. Lucidity is fragile. Realizing you're dreaming can be enough to wake you. That's the paradox. Awareness expands the dream, but also risks breaking it. Like a soap bubble that swells with every breath until pop, gone. Still, many have sought to master this delicate balance. Ancient Tibetan monks practiced a form of dream yoga, believing dreams could be harnessed for spiritual growth. In their tradition, recognizing the dream state was akin to recognizing the illusion of waking life, a key to enlightenment. They trained for years to retain awareness in sleep, using visualizations and mantras to guide their minds through the shifting landscape of night. In the West, the concept didn't gain traction until the late 20th century. One pivotal figure was Dr. Keith Hearne, who in 1975 captured the first scientifically recorded lucid dream in a lab. His subject, Alan Worsley, used eye movements to prove his awareness. Then came Stephen LaBerge, a Stanford researcher who refined the techniques. Dream journals, reality checks, mnemonic induction, all designed to train the mind to question reality and recognize when it's dreaming. And what are these techniques exactly? A reality check is a small test, trying to push a finger through your palm, Reading a line of text twice, flipping a light switch, repeated throughout the day. The idea is to make these habits second nature, so when you perform them in a dream and something breaks or your finger does pass through, you'll realize you're not awake. Another method is the mild technique, mnemonic induction of lucid dreams. Before sleep, you repeat a phrase like, "Next time I'm dreaming, I will remember I'm dreaming." It's a form of self-suggestion, planting intention in fertile mental soil. Then there's wild, wake-initiated lucid dreaming, where you attempt to enter a dream directly from waking. It requires exquisite control, letting the body fall asleep while the mind stays alert. You lie still, completely still, through the rising static of hypnagogia, the twilight state between waking and dreaming, until the dream scene builds itself around you, pixel by pixel, like a game booting up. It's unnerving. It's magnificent. But lucidity isn't always magical. Sometimes it brings confrontation. You might encounter strange figures who deny your control, dream characters who insist they are real. You're mistaken. Some lucid dreamers report being chased, or questioned, or even threatened by these dream-born entities. Psychologists suggest it's just your subconscious pushing back, your fears and doubts given form. Others believe these figures hold deeper meaning. Scientists still argue whether lucid dreaming is a true hybrid state, a blending of REM and waking consciousness, or simply a vivid form of metacognition within the dream. Some argue it's a unique state of awareness with its own signature. Others claim it's merely a trick of memory, a narrative you build upon waking. Regardless, it has opened doors. Therapists have used lucid dreaming to help patients confront recurring nightmares. Artists use it for inspiration. Some researchers even believe it could be used to train real-world skills. In one study, athletes practiced moves within lucid dreams and improved their performance while awake. Here's something quirky. Dutch artist Salvador Dalí used to nap while holding a spoon. As he slipped into sleep, his grip would loosen, and the spoon would clang to the floor, waking him instantly. In that microsecond before waking, he said, was where true creativity lived, halfway between dream and thought. Lucidity is the art of extending that space, and it's the rarest kind of sleep, not passive but participatory. It's when the curtain lifts and you, the dreamer, step on stage with the script in your hands. Tonight, you may find yourself at the edge of that doorway. It might begin subtly, a moment of repetition, a place that shouldn't exist, a sudden wordless knowing. Pause there. Let the dream settle. Breathe softly, like fog on still water. Don't grasp it too tightly. Don't panic. Just observe. The world will bend for you if you let it. And in that space, not awake, not asleep, you may learn something no book can teach. Because lucidity is more than control. It's a mirror, a compass, a question you answer by asking. It's not a trick, it's a truth. You're dreaming, and you're watching yourself dream. And there, in the quiet center of your mind, you realize something incredible. You're not lost. You are home. The dream shifts again, and no jolt, no crack of thunder, just a quiet folding of space, a soft reshuffling of the scenery. The glowing hallway you were walking through becomes a riverbank. The stranger you were talking to wears your father's voice now. You don't question it. You rarely do in dreams. But once, not long ago, people questioned every dream. Long before science tried to measure REM cycles or interpret brainwaves, dreams were divine, sacred, dangerous. The sleeping mind wasn't just a playground of thought, it was a portal. Messages from the gods, warnings from spirits, visitations from the dead, and you, dear dreamer, are stepping now into that ancient world. You walk through an open-air temple, stone columns rising from sand carved with symbols older than writing. Incense hangs in the air. Somewhere a scribe is whispering last night's visions to a high priest. The sun hasn't yet risen. You're in Egypt, around 1300 BCE. Here, dreams are a serious matter. Pharaohs keep dream interpreters close at hand. There are scrolls, dream books, filled with meanings, predictions, instructions. Dream of a crocodile? good fortune, a dream of drinking warm beer, illness on the horizon. These weren't metaphors, they were maps. To dream was to receive a glimpse of destiny. The Egyptians believed dreams could guide decisions, whether to go to war, which bride to choose, when to harvest. Some temples were dedicated entirely to incubation, sleeping with the intent to receive a divine message. People would journey long distances to sleep in sacred chambers, hoping the gods would visit them in dreams. Imagine lying down on cool stone, the scent of myrrh in your lungs, hoping the divine would whisper to you while you slept. But it wasn't just Egypt. Step forward through time, now you're in ancient Greece. You see the Aesculapian temples, devoted to the healing god Asclepius. The sick and wounded come not for potions, but for sleep. They lie on mats beside snakes, sacred serpents, waiting for dream visions. In the morning, priests listen. You saw a lion by the river, one says. You'll be cured by sunrise. The dreams are written on stone tablets, recorded, remembered. To the Greeks, dreams were a form of medicine, but they were also contested. Not every philosopher trusted dreams. Plato believed the soul was divided, and the dreaming self, the part that saw wild images and indulged in strange pleasures, was the lowest part. Aristotle, ever practical, thought dreams were just echoes of the day's sensations, filtered through the body's disturbances. Yet even he couldn't deny their emotional power. You drift now toward Mesopotamia, Babylon, around 600 BCE. The Epic of Gilgamesh is being recited by firelight. Gilgamesh dreams of a falling mountain, of stars that vanish. His companion Enkidu interprets, "A great challenge is coming, but it is the will of the gods." These aren't bedtime stories. They're omens. And even later, in the Hebrew Bible, dreams carry divine messages. Jacob sees a ladder to heaven. Joseph interprets Pharaoh's dreams of 7 fat cows and 7 lean ones, predicting famine. Here, the dream is a vessel of prophecy, a direct line to something beyond. Quirky fact, the Romans had a designated role in government called a dream interpreter. Even emperors consulted them. The fate of entire regions might swing on the content of one man's restless sleep. And then came Freud. In 1900, Sigmund Freud published The Interpretation of Dreams, forever shifting the way Western science viewed the dream world. He declared that dreams were not divine, but deeply human. The royal road, he said, to the unconscious. Every image, he claimed, disguised a wish, a repressed desire, a hidden trauma. Dreams weren't messages from gods, they were messages from yourself. Critics scoffed. The church condemned it. But others saw power in the idea that your dreams were trying to tell you something, not about the future, but about the past you'd hidden from yourself. Freud's protégé, Carl Jung, took it further. He believed dreams spoke in archetypes, universal symbols from the collective unconscious. A snake wasn't just a snake, it was transformation. A house wasn't just a house, it was the self. Dreams, he thought, were a dialogue between the ego and the deeper psyche, always trying to bring you into balance. Even today, therapists use dream work in analysis, not as prophecy, but as insight. And yet, even now, some people still see dreams as spiritual. There are modern shamans who lead dream journeys, indigenous traditions that speak of dreamtime, alternate realms that hold the true stories of our ancestors. Some tribes in Australia describe the world itself as having been dreamed into existence. Reality is the dream, and we are the ones forgetting we're asleep. It's beautiful, isn't it? How something as private as a dream could be so universal, stretching from stone temples to leather couches to jungle fires, from pharaohs to psychologists to you, lying in your bed tonight. And as you sink deeper, the thread continues. You may dream tonight of falling, of flying, of someone you once loved but never spoke to again. Maybe you'll see a path you've never walked, lined with lights that don't flicker, stretching towards something unknown. You may wake and forget it all. Or you may hold one image, a fox wearing a crown, a voice in a language you've never learned, the sky in green, and wonder what it meant. Scientists still argue whether dreams mean anything. Some say yes, they reflect inner conflict, subconscious desire, problem-solving mechanisms. Others insist they are merely narrative byproducts of neural housekeeping, no more meaningful than static on a screen. But the truth is you decide, and if a dream moves you, it has power. If a dream frightens you, it may contain truth. If a dream makes you feel loved or seen or less alone, even for a second, who are we to say it doesn't matter? Tonight, your dream may echo with ancient breath, may carry the voice of someone long dead or someone not yet born. You may wake with a message that makes no sense, but feels right. And perhaps in some distant temple, in stone or in synapse, a scribe is still recording your dream, carving it into the walls of a chamber you haven't entered yet, whispering, "This dream too shall be remembered." You lie motionless now, cocooned in quiet, but your brain is wide awake in its own peculiar way. Neurons fire, synapses spark, regions ignite and dim in rhythmic loops, and as your body sinks deeper into the comfort of sleep, your mind slips further into the theatre of the night, not to wander aimlessly, but to work. It is time now to peek behind the curtain at what your brain actually does while you sleep. Because sleep, though it looks like nothing, is everything. Your conscious self drifts like a leaf on a tide, but below, a bustling city hums with activity. Brain cells carry messages, clean up waste, and rewire pathways. Think of it like a night crew coming in after hours, janitors, electricians, architects, all rushing through while you, the owner of the building, slumber unaware. The first hours of sleep are dominated by slow wave sleep, a deep, restorative phase marked by long, rolling brainwaves. This is when your body repairs tissue, boosts immune functions, and releases growth hormone. It's the phase where everything slows, your heart, your breath, your blood pressure, until you are cradled in a stillness so deep it borders on the sacred. But then, as cycles turn, RM arrives. And here the repair shifts from physical to psychological. Your brain goes into overdrive. Think of RM as a nightly reboot, a kind of psychic tune-up. Regions associated with emotion, memory, creativity, and sensory processing flare to life. The amygdala, your fear center, activates. The hippocampus, where memories are made and stored, goes to work. The brain begins to sort through the clutter of the day, what to keep, what to toss, what to file away for later. It's not a perfect process, but it's deeply necessary. Here's your historical moment. In 959, researchers William Dement and Nathaniel Kleitman conducted a now famous study at the University of Chicago. Subjects were awakened every time they entered REM sleep. After just a few nights, participants became irritable, anxious, unable to concentrate. Some showed signs of hallucinations. The brain, it seemed, needed this stage, not just for dreams, but for stability itself. Even stranger, when allowed to sleep freely again, these participants experienced a phenomenon called REM rebound, spending more time in REM than usual, as if the brain were trying to catch up on dreams it had missed. So what's actually happening during REM? One theory is that it's an essential time for emotional processing. The events of the day are revisited, but with the emotional intensity turned down, like watching a scary movie with the sound muted. You might dream of an argument, a loss, a mistake, but instead of reliving the pain, you revisit it in a symbolic form, gently reframed. It's therapy without a therapist. Scientists still argue whether REM sleep is the only stage responsible for this kind of healing, or whether non-REM sleep plays a role too, but what's clear is this. People deprived of REM often feel emotionally raw, like a song that skipped the final note. Your brain also consolidates memory while you sleep, especially procedural memory, the kind involved in skills, learning to play piano, swing a golf club, or speak a new language. It doesn't stick fully until your brain sleeps on it. That old advice, sleep on it, was right all along. Even rats demonstrate this. In one study, rats ran through mazes during the day. At night, electrodes recorded their brain activity. What scientists found was astonishing. The rats' brains replayed the maze, step by step, as if practicing in dreams. The same firing patterns, the same sequences, a secret rehearsal beneath the surface. Your brain is doing the same thing. A skill you tried today, even just once, might reappear tonight, broken into pieces, looped and restitched until it becomes smoother. You might not dream of the skill directly, but the wiring behind it is strengthening. And then there's the cleanup crew. During sleep, the brain flushes out waste, not metaphorical waste, but literal, physical debris. It's called the glymphatic system, and it ramps up during deep sleep. Cerebrospinal fluid washes through your brain tissue, removing toxins, including proteins like beta amyloid, which has been linked to Alzheimer's. Some scientists believe poor sleep may accelerate neurodegenerative diseases. The night, it turns out, is not just for rest, it's for maintenance. Here's your quirky tidbit. The brain actually shrinks during deep sleep, just a little. Enough to allow fluid to move more freely through the tissue. Think of it as your neurons pulling in their arms, letting the janitors through. And yet, while all this science hums beneath the surface, your experience feels nothing like cleaning or sorting or wiring. It feels like a journey, a dream, a story. That's the magic. Your brain takes the cold functions of survival and wraps them in narrative, emotion, metaphor. It turns memory consolidation into a conversation with a giant turtle. It turns glymphatic cleansing into a rainstorm over a forgotten city. It turns emotional healing into a garden blooming out of season. And it doesn't ask for your permission. It simply does. Still, scientists have much to learn. They argue over the precise mechanics of memory processing in sleep. They debate the balance between REM and non-REM in emotional health. They question whether the dreaming brain truly creates meaning or simply reflects it. But no one denies this. The sleeping brain is busy, essential, miraculous. You may not remember what it's doing, but you'll feel the difference. You'll wake with clarity you didn't have before, with calm, with perspective, with a subtle, unshakable sense that something inside you has shifted, settled, soothed. And this is why tonight, as you drift beneath the surface, your brain continues to move, silently, tirelessly, beautifully. A quiet guardian in the dark. A storyteller with a toolbox. A machine that fixes itself with dreams. Now, somewhere between the third and fourth sleep cycle of the night, you drift through the soft tide of dreams. The world around you bends and breathes in rhythm with your own chest. But tonight, the story becomes darker. Not frightening, no, just more complex. You step into a room that doesn't belong to you. Something is off. A hallway narrows to a point. A voice calls your name, but you don't remember who you are. You run or try to, but your legs move like clay. This is the realm of nightmares, the strange shadows cast by your sleeping mind. Nightmares are dreams, yes, but dreams soaked in adrenaline, twisted in memory, sharpened with fear. They grip you tighter, their colours are darker, their sounds more jagged, and unlike ordinary dreams, they often wake you. But why do nightmares exist? If dreams are rehearsals, as some scientists believe, simulations meant to prepare you for life, then nightmares may be the fire drills, the worst-case scenarios. Your mind, in its twisted genius, conjures danger so that you can survive it. Evolution, painting in terror. You dream of falling, of being chased, of losing someone, of showing up unprepared. These are the universal nightmares. Everyone has them. They cross culture, age, geography. The forms may differ, but the feelings are shared. Helplessness, exposure, loss, threat. Children especially are vulnerable. Their nightmares are vivid, dramatic, often featuring monsters, abandonment, or the death of loved ones. Their imaginations are wide open, their fears less filtered. But even adults carry fears that surface in the night. Financial stress becomes a storm. Grief becomes a missing tooth. Burnout becomes an exam you forgot to study for. And then there are the more intense visitors, night terrors. These are not simply bad dreams, they're whole-body events. A person in the grip of a night terror may sit up, eyes open, screaming, yet remain unconscious. Their heart races, they sweat, they thrash, but when they wake, they remember nothing. Night terrors usually occur in deep non-REM sleep, not during dreaming REM. They are most common in children, but adults can experience them too, especially during times of stress, trauma, or sleep disruption. You might wonder, what's the purpose of such fear? Scientists still argue whether nightmares serve an evolutionary function or are merely byproducts of emotional overload. One theory suggests that nightmares act like emotional vaccines, small doses of controlled fear that help us build resilience. Another theory sees them as psychological pressure valves, a way for the subconscious to offload trauma or anxiety that the conscious mind resists. But the truth is, sometimes your brain has to scare you to heal you. Let's go back in time again to ancient Assyria. There, nightmares were seen as spiritual attacks. A bad dream wasn't just unpleasant, it was dangerous, a sign of a demon or angry ghost. There were protective rituals, amulets, and incantations designed to ward off these nocturnal intrusions. Clay tablets from 3,000 years ago include entire nightmare-banishing prayers. In medieval Europe, nightmares were blamed on incubi and succubi, demonic figures that visited sleeping people, pressing down on their chests, stealing breath. The term nightmare itself comes from this mythology, mare being an Old English word for an oppressive spirit. Today we know these experiences often stem from sleep paralysis, a state where the body remains immobile after waking, and the brain, caught between dream and consciousness, conjures terrifying illusions. Shadow figures, pressure, buzzing, voices. You may have felt it. You open your eyes. You see your room. But something is wrong. You can't move. You feel a presence, someone watching, sitting on your chest. You try to scream, but no sound comes. The moment stretches. And then, suddenly, you're free. Sleep paralysis affects roughly 8% of the population, though some studies place it higher. It's more common in people with irregular sleep schedules, narcolepsy or anxiety disorders, and though it's harmless physiologically, it can leave a deep psychological scar. Yet for some, even these terrifying moments become doorways. In many cultures, people have used nightmares as fuel for spiritual growth or creative inspiration. Shamans might enter nightmare-like trance states deliberately, seeking visions. Artists like Francisco Goya, Henry Fuseli and H.R. Giger channeled their dream terrors into visual masterpieces. Writers like Mary Shelley, Edgar Allan Poe, and Stephen King have spoken of nightmares birthing entire stories. Because even horror has its place in the dreaming mind. In dreams, you can confront fears that are otherwise too overwhelming. A death that was too sudden. A trauma never spoken aloud. A regret that refuses to leave. In the night they return, sometimes disguised, sometimes exact, so that you might see them, face them, reframe them. And here's something hopeful. Lucid dreamers can intervene in nightmares. With practice, some people learn to recognize the dream while still in it, and change its course. The monster that chases you, turn and face it, ask it what it wants. The falling sensation, turn it into flight. The locked door, imagine the key in your hand. It's not magic. It's neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself through repetition and imagination. By facing fears in dreams, some therapists believe we reduce their power in waking life. There's even a therapeutic approach called imagery rehearsal therapy, IRT, used to treat PTSD-related nightmares. Patients rewrite their nightmares, changing the ending, softening the threat, and mentally rehearse the new version before bed. Over time, the brain begins to adopt the new script. Nightmares don't have to be the enemy. They're messengers, a part of you trying to speak in the only language it knows, imagery, emotion, metaphor. So tonight, if you find yourself in a dream that turns dark, if the hallway narrows, if the voice turns cold, if the sky begins to split, don't panic. Pause. Remember you're safe. This is your mind telling you something. Let the story unfold. Watch the symbols. Feel what wants to be felt. because even nightmares are trying to help. And when the shadow lifts, when the scene dissolves, when you stir in bed hours later, you may not remember it clearly. But part of you will know. Something inside has shifted. The dream has done its work. You have survived the night, and the sun is almost ready to rise. You turn in your sleep now, just slightly, your body a quiet boat on the still waters of night. The world of dreams reforms again around you, slow and silken, like smoke catching light. But this time something feels different. You're not running, you're not falling, you are remembering. It starts with a smell, fresh cut grass, rain on concrete, then a voice, familiar, distant, a place you haven't thought of in years. Suddenly you're there again, 7 years old, sitting on the swing beneath your grandmother's tree, toes grazing the ground. You look down and your shoes are the ones you wore in childhood. You look up and she's calling your name. This isn't magic, it's memory. Because one of sleep's most powerful functions is this: it helps you remember who you are. Every night, while your body lies still, your brain is sorting, tagging, and rewriting the code of your life. It files away facts, relives moments, rehearses skills, and most mysteriously, it selects which memories to keep and which to let slip. And dreams? They're often where those memories bubble up. Not as clean flashbacks, but as fragments, symbolic, tangled, emotional, the face of a stranger who feels like family. A place that never existed, but somehow feels like home. A melody you haven't heard in decades, playing in a key only your heart remembers. Let's take a closer look. Each day your brain takes in a staggering amount of information. Sights, smells, words, emotions, movements, micro decisions. Your hippocampus, that seahorse-shaped structure deep in the brain, acts as a kind of staging area. It collects these experiences, but it can't store them all. So when you sleep, particularly during the deepest stages, your brain begins the process of consolidation. It decides what stays and what fades. Here's the mainstream fact. Research using fMRI and EEG shows that during sleep, especially non-REM stages, neural patterns representing memories are replayed. It's like your brain is rehearsing, strengthening the connections, moving important memories from your short-term to long-term storage. This is why sleep improves recall. If you study before bed, you're more likely to remember. If you learn a new task, like playing a song or memorizing a speech, sleep helps engrave it. Even emotional experiences are reinforced. That's why something that barely touched you yesterday might return in a dream, more vivid than ever. But memory in dreams is not always accurate. In fact, your brain loves to blend memories. A friend from work might wear your sister's laugh. Your childhood home might be filled with today's anxieties. Dreams are like collages, memory shards rearranged into stories. Quirky detail. This blend sometimes creates what scientists call false memories. You may wake up convinced you had a conversation with someone, or that a particular event happened, only to discover it was a dream, a hybrid of several moments. This is your brain's power and its flaw. It doesn't record like a camera, it reconstructs. Still, there's poetry in it. The mind at rest becomes a painter. It smears the colours of yesterday into new shapes, new patterns, and sometimes it retrieves memories you believed were gone, lost in the clutter of passing time. You might dream of a tale, a song, a hand that held yours for one single summer. You might wake with tears and not know why. That's your brain, restoring not just information, but emotion. Here's something ancient to consider. In indigenous Australian cultures, memory and dreaming are deeply intertwined. The dream time is not just mythology, it's a structure of memory, a map of ancestry, lore, geography, and spiritual truth. Elders pass on knowledge not only through stories, but through dreams. The dream is not a fiction, it is how you remember the real. It's a reminder that memory is not just brain work. It is identity, culture, soul. And here's where it gets stranger still. Scientists still argue whether dreams play a direct role in editing memory, selecting what to delete and what to emotionally soften. Some believe dreams serve to decouple emotion from traumatic memories. Others argue that dreams rehearse fears, reinforcing neural paths. But many agree on this. The dreaming brain helps process life's weight in manageable doses. It's like breaking grief into small pieces so you can carry it. Tonight, that process might be quiet, almost invisible. A face you haven't seen in years, a feeling you buried, a door you shut and forgot. In your dream, the door might open, you might walk through, and when you wake, you may not remember the scene, but you might feel lighter. Because the work has been done, you're still remembering, even as you forget. Here's a fascinating tidbit. Some memories are only retrievable through dreams. In rare cases, people have reported dreaming of an old song or a language they spoke as children, or the layout of a home they lived in long ago, details they could not consciously recall. The dreams unlocked a neural path left unused for decades, like opening a forgotten drawer and finding it full of letters. And sometimes, dreams can offer new clarity on old memories. Have you ever awoken with a sudden realization, an understanding of why someone said what they did, why you acted the way you did? That's the brain processing in the background. Not always rational, not always kind, but real. Of course, not all memories in dreams are helpful. Some are warped, some are painful, some return without warning. This is especially true for those with trauma. Their dreams become haunted, looping painful events like records that can't skip forward. But even here, healing's possible. Therapists working with trauma survivors often use dream analysis not to decode symbols, but to recognize patterns. Repeating dreams, sudden changes in tone, they help the sleeper rewrite the narrative, regain a sense of agency. In some cases, simply telling the dream aloud can help lift its weight, because the moment you speak a memory, it becomes shared, no longer locked in the dark. So tonight your brain may quietly reopen files you didn't know were still there. It may gently shift the framing of a difficult day. It may wrap an old scar in new metaphor. It may remind you, through dreams, that you are not just living forward, but also backward. That every moment you've survived is still part of your map. And though you may forget the details, the echo remains, a familiar smell in the air, a fleeting comfort, a story half remembered that still warms the chest. Sleep is not forgetting, it is remembering differently, and as you continue drifting now, the memories that matter, the ones you need, stay with you. Not in words, but in you. Always. The darkness around you feels heavier now, but not ominous, just vast, expansive. You're floating in a night without boundaries, a sky with no end, and though the dream has no clear setting, no furniture or face, you know you're not alone. Because within this quiet, your brain is thinking, not aimlessly, not randomly, but creatively. You're about to discover one of sleep's strangest miracles, the ability to solve problems while dreaming. Yes, dreaming is not just memory, not just emotion, it is innovation. Your sleeping mind, unburdened by the constraints of logic and daylight, can make connections your waking brain cannot. It skips the obvious. It weaves symbols. It rewrites the rules. While you rest, it rewires, rebuilds, invents. Tonight your dreams might solve a puzzle that's been bothering you. A conversation that never quite made sense. A project you couldn't finish. Or maybe nothing so clear. Just a feeling, the lifting of a weight. The sudden calm of clarity. This isn't fantasy, it's fact. In 1865, the German chemist August Kekule dozed off in front of his fireplace while struggling with the structure of the benzene molecule. In his dream, he saw a snake biting its own tail, an image from ancient mythology, and awoke with the realization that the molecule formed a ring. The ring structure of benzene changed chemistry forever, all thanks to a dream. But Kekule wasn't alone. Paul McCartney dreamed the entire melody for Yesterday and rushed to his piano the moment he woke. Elias Howe, the inventor of the sewing machine, dreamt of cannibals with spears, each spear with a hole at the tip, and realized the needle must be threaded at the point, not the base. These aren't just happy accidents. They reveal something profound. the sleeping mind continues to work on your behalf, quietly, invisibly. How? While you sleep, the brain is freer from inhibition. The prefrontal cortex, the part that censors your impulses, that frowns and says that idea doesn't make sense, is less active. Meanwhile, the association areas of your brain are lit up like city streets at dusk. Ideas from different regions, language, image, movement, memory, mingle freely, unpoliced. That's why dreams can feel so surreal, so impossible, and yet perfectly natural while they're happening. You might be in a treehouse built from pages of a book you read at age 12, listening to Einstein explain the nature of gravity using teacups and sand. And somehow it works. Your brain, in its twilight logic, is pulling concepts from different drawers, combining them like ingredients in a recipe no one else can taste. And sometimes that recipe is genius. This is what psychologists call incubation, the unconscious processing of problems over time. When you struggle with a question all day and let it go before bed, you're not giving up. You're passing it on to the deeper parts of your mind. And often the answer comes. Not always in words, sometimes in images, sometimes in metaphors, sometimes in nothing more than a shift in attitude. Here's something quirky. In one study, participants were given puzzles, complicated logic problems. Those who took a nap before attempting to solve them performed significantly better than those who stayed awake, especially if the nap included REM sleep. Their brains had literally worked on it in the background. Another study had participants play a video game involving mazes. Those who dreamed about the game were 10 times more likely to improve than those who stayed awake or napped without dreaming. Why? Because the brain doesn't need to repeat the problem, it just needs to reinterpret it. In the same way, creative people often sleep on it for more than just rest. Artists wake with visions, writers find the missing phrase, mathematicians unlock elegant proofs. Even you, yes, you have done this. Maybe you awoke with a sudden understanding of something that had seemed impossible. Maybe a relationship made sense in a way it hadn't before. Maybe an idea you'd been chasing clicked into place like the last puzzle piece. You might not have known it was your dream that solved it, but it was. Scientists still argue whether dream problem solving is intentional, a kind of purposeful mental computation, or merely a lucky byproduct of random neural activity. Is the dream aiming to solve, or does meaning emerge after the fact? Regardless, the results are undeniable, and you don't need to be a genius to benefit. Even the simplest dreams can offer solutions, if you listen. You might dream of water when you're overwhelmed, of flying when you feel stuck, of being naked in public when you're afraid of being seen. These are symbols, yes, but also signs, your mind speaking in its private dialect. And if you train yourself to remember by keeping a dream journal, by lying still after waking, by noting even the smallest fragments, you begin to uncover that language. You'll start to see patterns, recurring images, emotional and themes. You'll learn when your mind is trying to tell you something, and when it's simply working behind the curtain, stitching the seams of your world. And here's the most beautiful part. Sometimes the problem you didn't even know you had gets solved. Not through struggle, but through surrender, through sleep. Tonight, your brain may be working in ways you'll never see. It may be refining an idea, testing a solution, crafting the spark that becomes tomorrow's breakthrough. Or perhaps it's just sweeping the hallways, making space, cleaning the canvas. But when you wake, the world may feel different. A little clearer, a little more possible. And you'll carry that subtle shift through your day like a whisper. A hint of something brilliant, born from the silence. Because your dreams are not just stories, they're blueprints, they're laboratories, they're silent inventions made in velvet dark. So rest easy now, let your mind build, it knows exactly what it's doing. You drift now into the deeper folds of sleep, where time stretches and folds back on itself, where a second can last an hour and a memory might arrive wearing the face of tomorrow. The dreamscape around you is no longer tethered to logic. Here, you're walking through air, talking to light, remembering futures that haven't yet happened. and floating beside you like a quiet companion is something truly strange. You know you are dreaming. This is not always the case. Most dreams simply happen to you, you ride them like a current. But sometimes you become aware. You say to yourself, this isn't real. And yet you stay inside the dream. You can act, you can decide, you can fly. Welcome to lucid dreaming. It's rare for most people and precious, a state where you, the sleeper, become the author of the dream, or at least aware that you're inside a story of your own creation. A waking consciousness nestled inside the sleeping mind. But how does this happen? And what is your brain doing when you dream and know it? Let's take a step back. The term lucid dreaming was coined in 1913 by Dutch psychiatrist Frederik van Eden. But the experience itself is far older. Tibetan monks have practiced dream yoga for centuries, a discipline of becoming conscious within dreams to explore inner wisdom. The ancient Greeks spoke of incubated dreaming, and in indigenous cultures, dreamwalking is both spiritual practice and form of travel. Even Shakespeare hinted at it. We are such stuff as dreams are made on. But now science has caught up. Modern studies using EEG and fMRI have captured the lucid dreamer in action. What they found is astonishing. During lucidity, certain areas of the brain normally offline during REM, especially in the prefrontal cortex, light up again. These are the parts responsible for logic, self-awareness, planning. In other words, your waking self returns temporarily to the dream world. Lucid dreamers report incredible control. They can shape the environment, speak to dream characters, fly, breathe underwater, walk through walls. But not everyone uses lucidity for fantasy. Some use it for healing, exploration, shadow work, confronting fears. Imagine walking into a nightmare, realizing it's a dream and choosing to stay. You look the monster in the eye. You ask it why it's chasing you, and maybe it answers. That's the real power of lucidity. Not control, not flight, but conversation, with parts of your psyche normally hidden by daylight. Quirky fact, some researchers have conducted live experiments inside dreams. In 2021, scientists from multiple countries created protocols allowing lucid dreamers to communicate with the outside world while asleep, using eye movements and facial twitches as code. Participants were asked math questions during their dreams and responded correctly from within the dream. Think about that. A brain inside a dream doing math and signaling answers to the waking world. The veil is thinner than we think, but how can you enter this space yourself? There are techniques, gateways if you will. The first is awareness. Throughout your waking day, you build a habit of asking, am I dreaming? You look at your hands, you read a sentence twice, you check the time, and then check again. In dreams, these things often shift, wobble, blur. The goal is to carry that habit into sleep, where one night you'll ask the question and realize the truth. There's also WBTB, wake back to bed. You wake up after 5 or 6 hours of sleep, stay awake for 20 minutes, then return to bed with the intention of becoming lucid. Studies show this increases the chances dramatically. The mind wakes, the body sleeps, and the dream becomes yours. Another method is mild, mnemonic induction of lucid dreams. Before sleep, you repeat a phrase like, "Tonight I will realize I'm dreaming," over and over, softly, like a spell. Over time, the mind listens. Scientists still argue whether lucidity disrupts the restorative nature of sleep. Some say it breaks the natural rhythms. Others believe it enhances them, turning unconscious healing into conscious growth. More studies are needed. But the experiences of lucid dreamers cannot be ignored. They report increased creativity, reduced anxiety, deeper emotional processing. Some even use dreams to practice real-world skills, giving speeches, performing music, facing social fears. The brain doesn't distinguish much between imagined and real experiences. The benefits bleed through. And sometimes in lucid dreams, something strange happens. You meet someone, not a person from waking life, but a presence, a dream guide, a voice, a being. Lucid dreamers often describe recurring characters who offer advice, ask questions, or lead them to new spaces. They can be kind, mysterious, even challenging. But they are you, or some part of you that only speaks in the dream tongue. In these moments, or semblance, lucid dreaming becomes more than curiosity. It becomes communion. Your conscious mind meets the unconscious and shakes hands. Imagine what that could mean for healing, for insight, for wonder. And even if you don't experience lucidity often, know this: your dreams still hold wisdom. They were just speaking in metaphor instead of dialogue. But if one night you find yourself floating above the ground, or walking through a city made of starlight, or talking to a version of yourself with glowing eyes, ask the question, am I dreaming? And if the answer is yes, stay calm, breathe, look around, and ask your dream what it wants to show you. Because even in the deepest sleep, a light can awaken. And in that moment, you are not lost. You are more you than ever before. You are deep now, far beyond the reach of traffic noise or ticking clocks, far from the hum of devices and the blinking alerts of waking life. Down here in this hushed abyss, your breath is slow, your muscles slack, and the brain, though still alive with electric flickers, has surrendered the stage. This is slow wave sleep, the heaviest part of the night, the most mysterious, the most essential. And though your dreams may have quieted for now, the work behind the curtain has not. This is the stage of sleep that scientists call deep sleep, where your brain produces long, lazy delta waves, where consciousness slips further than it ever does during REM. You don't remember these stretches, you don't float, you sink, as if the floor beneath your thoughts has vanished. And while REM sleep might be where you dream in colour and emotion, this is where you heal. Here's the science. During slow-wave sleep, the body carries out its most crucial repairs. Growth hormone is secreted, tissue is restored, bones strengthen, muscles recover from strain, your immune system recalibrates, checking for threats, cataloguing invaders, building new defences. It's a biological spa working silently, invisibly. But what's happening in the brain is even more extraordinary. This is when the glymphatic system, the brain's waste clearance network, kicks into overdrive. Cerebrospinal fluid pulses through the brain's tissue, flushing out metabolic waste that builds up during the day. One of these waste products is beta amyloid, a sticky protein linked to Alzheimer's disease. If too much of it accumulates, it interferes with communication between neurons. In sleep, especially deep sleep, this waste is washed away. It's not just refreshing, it's protective. Mainstream fact, studies have shown that people who consistently get poor deep sleep over the years are at greater risk for neurodegenerative conditions, which is why researchers now consider slow-wave sleep a kind of nighttime neurotherapy. Yet for all its benefits, this stage is poorly understood. Scientists still argue about the purpose of the high-amplitude delta waves that define it. Some say they serve as a signal to initiate synaptic pruning, trimming the weaker neural connections to make the stronger ones more efficient. Others believe they help consolidate declarative memories, the facts and the knowledge you picked up during the day. What's agreed upon is this: without this stage, your body begins to break down. And here's something truly curious. As you age, you get less slow-wave sleep. A child might spend 40% of their night in this state. An older adult might get just 5%. This decline has puzzled researchers for decades. Is it a natural progression, or a factor in age-related cognitive decline? It's one of sleep science's great open questions. But let's wander now gently into something a little stranger. During slow-wave sleep, the brain isn't entirely silent. In fact, certain regions, like the thalamus and cortex, engage in strange synchronized activity. Neurons fire in coordinated pulses, then fall silent, then fire again, like ocean waves lapping at the shore. This rhythm seems to lock in memories, as if the brain is whispering to itself, remember this, not that this. And yet, this is also when sleepwalking can occur. That's your quirky tidbit for this section. Sleepwalking, Along with sleep talking, sleep eating, and even sleep driving that typically arises from deep sleep. The body enters a state of partial arousal where motor systems activate but consciousness does not. You might rise, walk through your home, even open a fridge, all while remaining asleep. Imagine that, your body doing while your mind still dreams. Most sleepwalking episodes are harmless and brief, but in rare cases, they can be dramatic, entire tasks performed in a trance-like state. Historically, sleepwalkers were seen as mystics, cursed wanderers, or even possessed. In some cultures, it was believed the soul had left the body, and the sleeper was chasing after it. But in truth, it's just a misfire, a glitch between systems. The brain's deep sleep networks collide with the body's motor control. It's not dangerous to wake a sleepwalker, contrary to myth, but it can be disorienting, like interrupting a film mid-reel. And sometimes it's not the body but the mind that wanders. Ever woken up from a deep sleep feeling like you've been somewhere? Not dreaming, not lucid, but gone? Some cultures describe this as soul travel or the spirit roaming while the body rests. Others simply call it a void, a silence, a place beyond dreams. It may be nothing more than neurological stillness. The brain's systems idling as energy is rerouted, but it feels profound, like a word you almost remembered. Even now you may be floating in that place. No story, no characters, just rest. And perhaps that's the lesson of slow-wave sleep. Not everything the mind does is narrative. Not all healing is poetic. Some of it is quiet, mechanical, rhythmic, hum in the dark, and it's happening now inside you. Your cells are rebuilding. Your neurons are pruning their gardens. Your memories are settling like sand in water. Your thoughts are folding themselves away. There is wisdom in this kind of sleep, the kind that asks nothing of you. No insights, no symbols, just stillness. And that too is sacred. So let yourself go a little deeper now. Trust the dark. Trust your body. It knows what to do when you step aside. Even as your dreams go quiet, your brain is humming. Softly, patiently, like waves rolling in from a distant shore. You are not alone. You are being kept. You've passed through the deep waters now. The slow waves have done their work. Beneath their hush, your body mended, your thoughts sifted, your brain quietly washed itself clean. And as the night begins to turn ever so slightly toward morning, your brain lights up again. Not with chaos, but with rhythm. You're cycling back into REM sleep. Your eyes flutter beneath their lids, muscles twitch faintly, and behind your closed eyes, entire worlds are forming. This is your second or third dream of the night, and it's different from the others. Longer, more elaborate, maybe more personal, maybe more strange, because as the night unfolds, each REM cycle grows richer and more complex, like chapters in a novel whose language becomes more poetic as the story unfolds. Your brain has been practicing all night, and now it's composing full symphonies. But let's look at what's happening behind the curtain. The REM stage, rapid eye movement, is where your most vivid dreams live. During this time, your brain activity almost mirrors that of wakefulness. Your heart rate quickens, your breathing becomes irregular, your limb muscles are paralyzed, a safety feature that prevents you from acting out your dreams, and your brain becomes a hive of storytelling. The thalamus, which relays sensory input, flares with activity. So does the amygdala, which governs emotion. The hippocampus, holding memory, flickers like candlelight. Even the occipital lobe, which processes vision, is ablaze, though your eyes remain closed. But your prefrontal cortex, the voice of reason, is mostly offline. This combination creates the perfect conditions for dreaming: emotional, visual, loosely logical, utterly compelling. And tonight, in this REM cycle, your brain is deep into composition. Remember the feeling of a dream within a dream? Or those dreams where you think you've woken up, only to find that you're still dreaming? That's a sign of REM's increasing complexity. The brain is layering symbols, mimicking the real, twisting the familiar. A door opens in your childhood home, and suddenly you're on a train. You walk through a meadow, and it becomes the hallway of your first school. The people in your dream speak without moving their lips, and yet you understand them perfectly. This is not nonsense. This is narrative architecture, and your brain is the architect, the builder, and the audience all at once. Mainstream fact: during this stage, the brain is heavily involved in integrating emotional experiences. Studies using PET scans show that REM dreams often feature heightened emotional intensity. It's as though the mind is replaying life's conflicts through metaphor, diffusing their sharpness. Which is why the dreams you have now may feel more meaningful than those earlier in the night. They linger longer. They touch something deeper. You might dream of someone you haven't seen in years, not as a flash, but as a full scene. You might explore imaginary places so intricate you're convinced they exist. Or you might experience time folding. Minutes stretch into hours, and entire lifetimes pass before the sun rises. This is also the window where the brain builds creative synthesis. A concept here, a memory there, and suddenly you're painting in your sleep, composing music, inventing impossible machines. All of it formed from pieces of your waking life, now alchemized into something new. And yet not all REM dreams are wondrous. Some are confusing, unsettling. Some bring up unresolved grief. Some chase you with memories you'd rather not feel. This too is part of the brain's process. The confrontation of emotion, even through illusion, helps diffuse it. Exposure, but behind glass. And sometimes you wake up with tears on your cheeks, not sure if they're from sorrow or beauty or both. Quirky tidbit. During REM, your brain actually deactivates parts of the body's temperature regulation system. You become more sensitive to the temperature of the room, a throwback to our evolutionary past perhaps, where REM required us to remain still and vulnerable, but also alert to sudden cold or heat. You are, for all your stillness, in a kind of suspended animation. Your consciousness, though unbound, is more vulnerable than ever, but not unguarded. Your brain knows what it's doing. Let's journey back briefly to a fringe theory, one that, though unproven, still tickles at the edge of science and mystery. Some researchers have suggested that REM sleep acts as a kind of evolutionary simulator, a safe environment to test out reactions to complex situations, a rehearsal space for the soul. In this view, your dream self is trying out what your waking self cannot. Difficult conversations, impossible choices, emotional thresholds, and through this theatre of simulation you grow. Scientists still argue whether the content of dreams is meaningful or simply decorative, a byproduct of internal processing. But many agree that REM's role in emotional calibration is real. Tonight, your brain may be softly adjusting your emotional dials, tuning you back into equilibrium. Not just cleaning, but balancing. And when you wake, you may find that your mood and your tone, your readiness to face the world, is not a result of the day ahead, but the night just passed. This REM cycle may be your most important yet, and it isn't finished. There's still time for one more scene. Maybe you'll fly tonight, not as an escape, but as a metaphor. Freedom, agency, joy. Or maybe you'll revisit someone who left too soon and hold them again just for a few heartbeats. Maybe your dream tonight will offer no story at all, just colour, just rhythm, just the echo of your own inner ocean. Whatever it brings, your brain has chosen it for a reason. Let it unfold, let it complete its arc. You may not remember it tomorrow, but something in you will, because REM is not the fringe of sleep, it is its crescendo. The dream swells, and you, gentle dreamer, are floating perfectly within it. The night hums quietly around you now, like the low vibration of a lullaby that never quite ends. Your breathing is smooth, steady, and your limbs are warm with the stillness of rest. You're somewhere between the last peak of REM and the next descent into silence. And as you hover in this in-between, not quite deep sleep, not quite dreaming, a strange sensation begins to emerge. You're not alone in your sleep. No, not in the mystical sense, but in the biological one. Because even while you rest, your brain is in constant conversation with your body. A quiet, intricate dialogue that never ceases, not even in the deepest dark. And it's this conversation between mind and body that shapes how well you sleep, how deeply you dream, and how peacefully you wake. Let's begin with something you rarely think about, your heartbeat. Even now, as you sleep, your heart is syncing with the rhythms of your brain. During deep sleep, your heart rate slows significantly, matching the long, undulating delta waves of your brain activity. During REM sleep, it fluctuates rapidly, sometimes spiking in response to emotional dreams. Mainstream fact: scientists have discovered that specific stages of sleep are tied to different patterns in heart variability. High variability during REM, for example, is associated with better emotional regulation. Your heart and brain, in effect, co-regulate each other, a delicate nightly feedback loop. But it's not just the heart. Your gut, often called the second brain, plays a subtle role as well. The microbiome, a dense forest of bacteria in your digestive tract, releases neurotransmitters like serotonin and GABA, chemicals crucial to sleep and dreaming. Over 90% of the body's serotonin is produced in the gut. If your gut is stressed, your sleep is likely to follow. Scientists still argue whether the gut microbiome directly influences REM cycles, but there's growing consensus that a healthy gut equals healthier sleep. And in turn, better sleep promotes a balanced gut, a beautiful circle woven in the dark. Meanwhile, your immune system is doing its rounds. Sleep is when the immune system reorganizes. Cytokines, small proteins that signal inflammation, rise and fall in carefully timed waves. If you have ever felt drowsy during illness, that's no accident. Your body urges sleep not just for rest, but to allow the immune system to work without interruption. Here's a quirky tidbit. Your brain's internal night watchman, the hypothalamus, not only monitors your temperature, hunger, and circadian rhythm, but also acts as an emotional thermostat. It listens to the body's signals and subtly adjusts your dream content. If your blood sugar is low, you may dream of searching for food. If your breathing is irregular, you may dream of being underwater or suffocating. Your body doesn't vanish during sleep, it speaks, and your dreaming brain listens. In ancient traditions, this connection was well understood, even without modern science. In traditional Chinese medicine, for instance, different organs were believed to be more active during different hours of the night. Waking at 3 a.m? That might suggest your liver energy is in flux. Strange dreams near dawn? That's the lung meridian passing through. Whether metaphor or a mechanism, it reflected a truth. Sleep is not just mental, it is physiological poetry, and perhaps nowhere is this more evident than in the hormonal symphony playing right now inside you. Your pineal gland, tucked deep within the brain, has been dripping melatonin into your bloodstream since darkness fell. This hormone sets the tempo for sleep. Its levels rise as night deepens, guiding you into cycles then taper off toward morning. Meanwhile, cortisol, the stress hormone, is slowly beginning its rise, preparing you to wake in a few hours, not in a jolt, but a gentle incline. When balanced, it helps you rise feeling refreshed. When misaligned, it can jolt you awake at 4 a.m. with a racing heart and no clear reason why. So much of sleep's quality is determined not by the dream, but by the biology underneath it. Even your body temperature plays a role. Each night your core temperature drops by about 1-2 degrees Fahrenheit. This cooling signals the body that it's time to sleep. If the room is too warm, your sleep becomes shallow, your dreams fragmented. If too cold, your muscles tense, disturbing rest. This is why the best sleep happens in cool, dark environments, where the body's natural rhythms are respected. And tonight, your body is doing all of this without asking you for permission. It lowers your blood pressure, it slows your breathing, it balances electrolytes, it sends repair crews to your muscles, it tunes your immune system like a cello, all while the mind weaves its stories above. The two are not separate, they are a duet. And when they are in harmony, you feel it. You wake clear, calm, connected. But if they fall out of sync, if your body is flooded with caffeine or your circadian rhythm is broken by blue light or jet lag, the dialogue suffers. Your dreams become restless. Your memory fades. Your health, over time, begins to fray. That's why tending to your body is a form of tending to your mind. What you eat, when you sleep, how you move, what light you bathe in, all of it matters. because you are not just a mind riding inside a machine. You are a living system, a constellation of rhythms, a being made to sleep and made to heal in that sleep. So as you continue to float through this second half of the night, remember this: even in your most unconscious states, your body and brain are holding each other, keeping time, syncing breath with thought, pulse with dream. You are whole even in pieces, you are healing even in stillness, and you are deeply, quietly alive. Your breath is shallower now, shifting almost imperceptibly as your body rolls into the next stage of sleep's choreography. It presses on, but something within you is changing. There is a faint stirring, not toward waking, but toward awareness. You are approaching the boundary where sleep meets sense, and just before you rise, long before your eyes open, your brain is already listening. Just to dreams, to the world, because sleep, despite its depth, is not a complete disconnection. Your brain remains, in some ways, alert. A sentinel, a quiet monitor for danger, safety, changes in light, sound, touch. Even in your most restful slumber, a part of you keeps vigil. And this is where the science becomes strange. You are even now aware of more than you know. Let's begin with sound. The sleeping brain does not shut its ears. In fact, certain types of noise, like a baby crying, a door creaking, your name whispered in a soft room, trigger activity in the auditory cortex. Some of these sounds are filtered out. Others reach deeper, stirring you, sometimes weaving themselves into your dreams. Mainstream fact: during light sleep, particularly stage 2, the brain exhibits what are known as K-complexes, large, sharp waves of electrical activity in response to external stimuli. They're a kind of built-in gatekeeper. The K-complex assesses the sound. Is it familiar? Is it dangerous? Should we wake? If not, it dismisses the noise. If yes, it may nudge you toward consciousness. This is why you might sleep through distant thunder, but wake instantly at the sound of your pet shifting on the floor. Or why you sometimes hear your alarm in your dream before waking. Your brain trying to make sense of the noise before deciding to rise. Sound becomes part of the narrative, and sometimes it shapes the dream entirely. A far-off song might become a dance scene. A car horn may transform into a ship's bell in your imagined ocean voyage. Your mind takes the stimulus, translates it, and tucks it neatly into the dream's fabric. The same happens with touch. If your arm is pressed too tightly against the bed, your dream may create a story around that discomfort, perhaps a heavy coat, a rope, a pressing wall. If someone gently touches your foot while you sleep, you might dream of walking through long grass or feeling waves lap against your toes. The sleeping brain is an interpreter. It senses the world even in its deepest rest and creates meaning from fragments. And here's a truly quirky fact: even smell can alter your dreams. In a now famous experiment, sleepers were exposed to different odours during REM sleep. Those who smelled roses reported more pleasant dreams. Those exposed to rotten eggs described more negative, often nightmarish content. Yet none of them woke. The scent changed the emotional tone of their dreams, without ever reaching conscious awareness. This suggests that even in sleep our brains are sculpting dreams not in isolation, but in conversation with the environment. And sometimes even with ourselves. Have you ever spoken in your sleep, laughed, murmured a sentence that made no sense? That's a phenomenon called somniloquy, or sleep talking. It can happen in all stages of sleep, but it's most common during transitions between cycles. It usually involves short, nonsensical phrases, but occasionally full sentences emerge, snippets of dialogue from the dream world, spoken aloud. Some cultures believed this was the soul trying to communicate. Others saw it as spirits passing through. But today we understand it as a kind of echo, a crossover between dreaming and waking systems. And then there's the eerie phenomenon of sleep paralysis. It typically occurs during the transition out of REM sleep, when the body's muscle atonia, the natural paralysis that keeps us from acting out dreams, remains active even as consciousness returns. You wake, but you cannot move. You feel pinned, eyes open, breath shallow, often accompanied by intense hallucinations, figures in the room, whispers in the ear, a crushing weight on the chest. Terrifying, yes, but explainable. The brain systems are simply out of sync, your awareness coming online before your motor control. Scientists still argue whether the hallucinations are remnants of dream content or separate phenomena entirely. Either way, they remind us just how thin the line between dream and waking can be, and yet these edge states, these thresholds, may be where we learn the most about ourselves. Take the hypnagogic state, for example, that fleeting moment just as you fall asleep. Images flash, thoughts swirl, you may feel like you're falling, hear voices, see impossible shapes. It's not dreaming, not quite, it's the doorway to it. And on the other end, the hypnopompic state, the gentle rise out of sleep, where dreams dissolve and you return to your body. These moments are fertile, open, the brain is still porous, still dream-drunk. Some of your most creative thoughts may emerge here, untamed, uncensored. These are windows, precious, brief, and often forgotten, unless of course you train yourself to listen. Dream journaling can help. Lying still upon waking, recording images, feelings, fragments. Over time, your memory improves, your awareness increases, you begin to notice patterns, the sound that entered your dream, the moment you slipped across the threshold. Because yes, your body hears, feels, remembers, even in sleep. And this brings us to something even more remarkable. Even in deep unconsciousness, coma, anesthesia, certain vegetative states, the brain sometimes shows signs of covert awareness. In rare cases, patients who seem entirely unresponsive have been found to respond mentally to commands, detected via fMRI or EEG. They imagine moving their hands, playing tennis, navigating a home, and though they cannot speak, their brains answer. This suggests that consciousness, like sleep, may not be binary. It is not simply on or off. It is a spectrum, a flickering, a wave, and you, right now in your sleep, are somewhere along it. Not awake, not gone, but listening. To the hum of your room, the rhythm of your breath, the dream's whisper, the body's quiet work. And soon, when you wake, you'll feel it. That residual awareness, that echo of the night, a feeling that you've been somewhere, and that part of you never quite left. That's the secret after all. Sleep doesn't silence you, it softens you, it opened you to sensation, to story, to self. Listen, even here, your body is speaking, and your dreaming mind is listening. The night wears on, folding itself gently around you like a warm, familiar quilt. You're not quite at the edge of morning, but you're nearing it, softly, without hurry. The rhythms of your sleep have cycled multiple times now, and each cycle has layered more meaning into your mind, stitched more patterns into your thoughts. But in this quiet stretch of night, as your brain continues its secret work, something extraordinary begins to emerge. Not just dreams, not just healing, but memory. Because every night in the background of your sleep, your brain becomes an archivist, a careful, tireless librarian, sorting through the chaos of the day and deciding what to keep, what to let go, and what to weave into the story of who you are. And this process happens mostly while you're asleep. Let's step into that memory chamber together. Imagine rows and rows of shelves, not physical, but electrical, chemical, neurons reaching for each other like dancers in the dark, forming connections that weren't there yesterday. In this midnight library, your brain is replaying scenes, testing associations, checking facts, and whispering to itself. Yes, this mattered. Oh, forget that one. This, keep this. It's not just poetic metaphor, it's biological reality. Mainstream fact, during both REM and non-REM sleep, memory consolidation occurs. Scientists categorize memory into three main types: declarative, facts and events, procedural, skills and habits, and emotional. All three rely on sleep for proper storage. During the slow wave stages, the deep delta wave sleep from earlier, your brain works on declarative memory. The raw data, names, dates, places, things you read, things you learned. Your hippocampus, which temporarily stores new information, begins replaying this data and transferring it to the neocortex, the brain's long-term storage center. It's like moving files from a desktop to a hard drive. Then during REM sleep, your brain works more on emotional and procedural memory. It takes the day's feelings, fears, rewards, and failures and reshapes them, giving them meaning. If you practiced a skill, like playing an instrument or learning a language, M is where that skill deepens. Muscles may be still, but motor memory sharpens. You are, without knowing it, becoming more you every night. Scientists still argue exactly how these processes unfold. Is the hippocampus replaying memories like a video? Or is it reshaping them entirely, stitching together fragments from multiple sources? The consensus is elusive, but the effect is clear. Without proper sleep, memory begins to fail. And here's something remarkable. Even a single night of poor sleep can impair your ability to recall information or form new memories the next day. You've probably felt this, the fog, the forgetfulness, the feeling that your brain just isn't catching things. That's not weakness, that's the absence of sleep's silent work. And it works both ways. Sleep also protects memories from interference. Throughout your day, your brain is constantly bombarded with input. Sights, sounds, faces, headlines, worries. If your brain didn't prioritize, it would overload. Sleep acts as the editor, deciding which chapters make it into the autobiography and which get tossed on the cutting room floor. Quirky tidbit, some people experience what's called hypnagogic memory, in which images or phrases they see just as they're falling asleep return to them later, as if those fragments were filed away at the last possible second. Artists and scientists have long used this state to their advantage. Thomas Edison, for example, would nap holding metal spheres in his hands. As he slipped into sleep, the spheres would fall and wake him, allowing him to catch the fleeting visions that danced in his mind's doorway. Your brain is always catching things, even when you aren't. And in dreams, memory and imagination blur beautifully. You may dream of people you knew decades ago, yet their faces are unchanged. You may explore places you've never visited, yet somehow remember where to go. This blending of real and imagined is not confusion, it's synthesis. Your brain is pulling from all its shelves, mixing past with fantasy, truth with metaphor to create something new. And these aren't just memory exercises, they're emotional ones. Because memory is never neutral. You remember what matters, and what matters is often charged and with joy, with fear, with longing. This is why emotional memories are often strengthened during REM. It's also why trauma can distort sleep. The brain, overwhelmed by powerful emotional content, may replay disturbing scenes, interrupt cycles, or resist deep rest altogether. Sleep and trauma are deeply intertwined. Yet sleep can also heal trauma, or at least help your brain process it more safely. During REM, the brain relives emotional content without the usual flood of stress chemicals like norepinephrine. It's as though the dream offers a safe environment, a sandbox, to revisit painful events from a distance. Over time, the emotional intensity fades even if the memory remains. You don't forget, you unfold. Which is why some therapies now include sleep as part of the healing process. For example, EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, mimics the rhythmic eye movements of REM, allowing patients to revisit trauma in a controlled therapeutic setting. The sleeping brain, it turns out, was already doing something similar. It was teaching you how to carry your own past more gently. So tonight, perhaps even now, your brain is walking through the halls of your memory. It's turning lights on in certain rooms, dusting off the furniture in others, quietly locking doors that no longer need opening. It's not erasing your past, it's organizing it. And maybe that's the gentlest gift of sleep. You don't just wake refreshed, you wake rewritten, a little more grounded in who you are, a little more unburdened by what you don't need to carry, a little more open to learning something new. Because memory is not just storage, it's identity, and every night your brain is protecting you. So breathe in slowly. Let the moment pass through you. Somewhere in your dreams, a memory is being polished, a lesson is being learned, and a piece of who you are is being gently, lovingly filed away, ready for tomorrow. The sky outside is still dark, but there's a softness to it now, a hint that the world is beginning to turn once more toward light. You are still deep within your night, but nature is shifting ever so slightly, and inside you, another kind of dawn approaches, the rising of yourself. Because tonight, every night, your sleep has done more than restore your body or sculpt your memories. It has tended to something even more elusive, your sense of self. Who you are, who you believe yourself to be, the I behind your eyes. That self, as stable as it may feel during waking life, is not carved in stone. It's fluid, adaptive, continuously revised. And sleep, especially dreaming, plays a quiet but profound role in maintaining and shaping that internal story. Let's begin with the paradox. When you dream, you're often not yourself. Or at least not the version of you who brushes teeth, answers emails, checks clocks. In dreams, you might be a child again. You might be someone else entirely, a stranger, a traveller, an animal. You may change genders, ages, even species. You might die, and yet keep dreaming. And the strangest part, it rarely bothers you. This fluidity, this ease of shifting identity is one of the hallmarks of dream logic. Your self becomes a kind of flexible mask, one that reflects deeper psychological truths rather than waking facts. The boundaries are softened, and through them, new insights can emerge. Mainstream fact. Neuroscientists have found that during REM sleep, activity in the default mode network, the brain's self-referential system, fluctuates in unique ways. Parts of it deactivate, allowing for a temporary loosening of the self. This loosening is what permits dreams to present you as multiple characters, or to experience events as though you're both participant and observer. Scientists still argue whether droll aims reinforce the self by allowing it to simulate scenarios, or dissolve it, helping us detach from rigid ego structures. But many agree on this. Dreams let you explore who else you could be, free of consequence. Quirky tidbit. Some people report dreams in which they vividly experience the inner life of others, not just watching, but feeling someone else's thoughts, emotions, even pain. These rare dreams, often described as empathy dreams, may be the brain's way of stretching the boundaries of self, a kind of psychic rehearsal for compassion. Your sleeping mind is not bound by who you were yesterday, and that's where the power lies. Each night your identity is unstitched, just a little. Enough to shake loose the unhelpful narratives, the stuck patterns, the repeated loops, and then it's resewn. With new ideas, fresh interpretations, gentler perspectives. It's why some people wake up with a solution to a problem they couldn't solve the day before. Why heartbreaks sometimes ache less after a few nights' sleep. Why, without knowing why, you may suddenly feel stronger, or braver, or more open, because your sense of self is fluid, and your dreams are the current shaping the shoreline. This process isn't always smooth. Dreams sometimes reflect our deepest insecurities. The imposter, the exile, the flawed one. You may dream of being naked in public, of failing a test, of being left behind. These classic dreams aren't random, they echo doubts your conscious self works hard to ignore. But within the safety of the dream, these vulnerabilities can be faced. In myth, the hero always descends into the underworld before transformation. In sleep, you make that descent, not in body, but in identity. You touch the parts of yourself you'd rather not meet during the day, and you return with knowledge, even if it doesn't speak in words. Sometimes identity in dreams becomes symbolic. You may not appear as yourself, but as a house, a tree, a river. These are not just metaphors, they're expressions of state. The dream says, you feel rooted, or you feel cracked, or you are flowing again. These images are not arbitrary, they are you speaking in another language. And perhaps nowhere is the sense of self more fascinating than in dreams that break the fourth wall. Those rare dreams where you suddenly become aware that you're dreaming and can choose your actions. Lucid dreams, yes, but also something deeper, metacognition within the dream world. In those moments, the dreamer steps out of the story and sees themselves as the dreamer. It's a kind of psychological mirror, not just reflecting who you are, but who you think you are. These moments can be jarring or liberating. You may feel powerful or overwhelmed, because when you touch the root of self, stripped of roles, names, habits, you realize how little of it is fixed, and how much is story. The brain is a storyteller after all, awake or asleep. And the most important story it tells is you. Each night your brain re-edits this tale. It patches holes, softens old pages, adds new ones. Sometimes it rewrites whole chapters, sometimes it reads the same one over and over, trying to understand. Sleep is when the narrative of you is stitched together again. And this isn't just philosophy. Research shows that people deprived of REM sleep begin to lose their sense of emotional regulation, creative flexibility, and yes, stable identity. They become more reactive, less introspective, more anchorous, less connected. You need dreams to remind you who you are, and sometimes to remind you who you are not. Because not every self fits forever. Sleep lets you try on others, quietly, gently. Some you discard upon waking, others stay with you, changing how you speak, how you forgive, how you move through the world. So if tonight your dream carries you into another life, if you find yourself with another face, another voice, do not be afraid. It is still you. It's just another version, a possibility. When you wake, you'll carry a whisper of that version with you. Maybe in your walk, maybe in a choice you didn't expect to make, maybe in the way you speak more softly to yourself, because this night, like every night, you were more than you seemed. And tomorrow, you will be again. The night leans ever so slightly toward its close, but your body hasn't noticed. It moves to a rhythm deeper than time, one measured not in hours, but in waves and breath, and the soft electrical moldal murmurs of your dreaming brain. You're in the final arc of sleep now, and something subtle, something vital is happening. Your brain is preparing you for waking, but not in the way you might expect, not with alarms, not with thoughts of breakfast or to-do lists or appointments. No, this preparation begins in a whisper. It starts with chemistry, with light, with the careful, patient unraveling of a story that's been woven all night long. This process, the dawn inside you, is one of the most intricate transitions your body performs. You may think of waking as a jolt, a flip of a switch, but in truth, it's a symphony of systems coming back online in precise harmony. It begins before you open your eyes. Deep in your brain, the suprachiasmatic nucleus, your internal clock, starts to change its output. Cortisol levels rise slightly, not in panic, but in preparation. Your body temperature, which dropped in the night, begins to climb. Melatonin, the sleep hormone, slowly withdraws. This cocktail of transitions nudges your body toward consciousness, gently lifting you from the depths of sleep into a state of readiness. Mainstream fact, these circadian shifts begin roughly 2 hours before natural waking. Even if you're unaware, your brain is already gearing up, synchronizing organ systems, priming muscles, and increasing blood flow to key regions of the brain. But what if you don't wake up gently? What if your alarm blares, or you're jolted by noise or stress? Then you may experience what researchers call sleep inertia, that heavy, foggy feeling where your brain lags behind your body. It's not just grogginess, it's the remnants of deep sleep clinging to you, like mist, and sometimes the fog doesn't lift for hours. Scientists still argue over what causes the length and intensity of sleep inertia. Is it tied to the stage you were in when you woke? Is it influenced by the quality of your REM cycles, or by blood flow to the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for logic, planning, and self-awareness? The truth is likely a combination of all of these. But here's the curious part. Not all awakenings are equal. People who wake naturally, with no alarm after a full sleep cycle, tend to have clearer thoughts, better memory, and more emotional stability. It's as if the brain, when allowed to finish its script, closes the curtain more gracefully. And there's something else. The content of your final dream before waking can shape the tone of your entire day. Have you ever woken from a dream that left you smiling, or one that filled your chest with longing, or dread, or peace? That emotional residue is no accident. Your brain doesn't just file dreams away, it feels them. And those feelings linger, like the scent of smoke after a fire, like the echo of a song still humming in your chest. Which brings us to a strange overlooked aspect of waking, your emotional reboot. Your dreams, especially REM dreams, are thought to help regulate your mood, to ease you from one emotional climate into another, to process what you could not or would not face in waking life. And by the final cycle of the night, your brain has often resolved something. A quiet conflict, a knot of grief, a small unnoticed joy, quirky tidbit. In some studies, participants who experienced positive imagery in their last REM cycle showed increased prosocial behavior the next day, more kindness, more patience, more generosity. One could argue the brain, in its own mysterious way, prepares you to be a better person while you sleep. But what happens when sleep is cut short? When you wake in the middle of a cycle or skip REM altogether due to alcohol, stress, or irregular schedules? Then the script is interrupted. The orchestra doesn't finish the symphony, and your day begins without emotional resolution. You might feel edgy, vague. You may carry a sense of something undone, not because of your tasks, but because your mind didn't complete its nightly recalibration. Sleep is not just rest, it's closure. And waking is not just the end of sleep, it's the beginning of you, the version of you that will walk into the world and speak and make choices and feel. How you wake matters. This is why so many ancient cultures developed waking rituals. In some traditions, you begin the day in silence. Others advise stretching or prayer. Some light incense. Some drink water with intention. In Japan, the practice of asageko, morning practice, involves greeting the body and mind with deliberate calming movements. Not because it's tradition, but because it honors the transition. Your modern world, of course, rushes you. Alarms, notifications, fluorescent lights, the abrupt invasion of urgency. But your brain craves gentler entry. Try it even once. Let the light find your skin slowly. Stretch before you speak. Let your dreams linger. Remember them. Write them down. Trace their edges before they fade. Your last REM cycle, the one you're likely just exiting, is often the most vivid, the most emotional, the most you. And when you give it space, it can offer guidance, or at least a whisper of insight. It's no coincidence that the quietest moments of the morning often feel the most sacred. You're still half dream, still soft, still open. And that openness can change how you move through the world. So tonight, as you remain in sleep's embrace a little while longer, know that your brain is already building the bridge to morning. It's setting the stage, lowering the curtain on this performance of rest. Soon you'll wake, but not yet. There is still one more scene to play out, one more breath to take in stillness, one more dream maybe, fragile, floating on the edge of night and day. Let it come, let it go. You're preparing for yourself, and yourself is almost here. There's a softness now, like the final notes of a lullaby hanging in the air. You're still sleeping, deeply enough that your body is weightless, distant from all the clocks and complications of the waking world. But the landscape around you is changing. The dreams that once felt infinite now begin to fold gently inward, like flowers at dawn. You're entering the last stages of your night's journey, and as the curtain falls on your dreaming mind, another performance begins, not one of thought or action, but of cleaning, deep, cellular, neurological cleaning. Because sleep isn't just for dreams, it's for detox. Not the kind that sells supplements or juice cleanses, but a genuine biological rinse happening inside your skull. Let's talk about the night janitors of the brain. While you sleep, particularly during the slow wave non-REM stages, your brain does something extraordinary. It shrinks slightly, just enough to make space between the cells, and in that space a fluid begins to circulate. The cerebrospinal fluid, clear, watery, essential. This fluid flows like a tide through your brain, washing away waste products that build up during the day, metabolic leftovers, broken down proteins, rogue molecules that clutter the neural environment. Mainstream fact. This process is part of what scientists call the glymphatic system, a waste clearance pathway hence discovered only recently. Named for its reliance on glial cells, the brain's support structures, this system acts like the brain's own plumbing network, and it only becomes truly active during deep sleep. One of the key toxins it removes is beta amyloid, a sticky protein associated with Alzheimer's disease. When sleep is poor or fragmented, beta amyloid can accumulate, creating plaques that disrupt memory and cognition. Sleep then is not just restorative, it's preventative. It's not rest, it's repair. Scientists still argue whether chronic sleep loss directly causes neurodegenerative disease or whether it simply accelerates underlying vulnerabilities. But there is growing agreement that the connection between poor sleep and long-term cognitive decline is real. Your sleeping brain is your best defense against forgetting who you are, and this nightly cleaning goes beyond the brain. Throughout the body, cells use sleep to perform autophagy, a word that literally means self-eating. But don't be alarmed, it's a good thing. Autophagy is how your cells recycle damaged parts, dismantling broken organelles, clearing out misfolded proteins, and rebuilding cleaner, more efficient components. It's like tidying your house while you're away. And sleep signals this process into action. Quirky tidbit, some species seem to rely on this cellular maintenance more than others. The fruit fly, for example, drastically increases autophagy during sleep. If deprived of rest, its neurons swell with waste, leading to behavioral collapse. Even in the tiniest brains, sleep keeps the gears from grinding. In humans, this cleanup affects more than memory. It influences immune health, hormone regulation, metabolism, and even aging. Without proper sleep, your body slowly becomes less efficient at managing stress, inflammation, and even hunger. Ever noticed how after a poor night's sleep your cravings spike? That's not just fatigue talking, it's ghrelin, the hunger hormone, increasing, while leptin, the fullness signal, decreases. Your body mistakes tiredness for starvation, and you eat not because you're hungry, but because your systems are confused. Sleep isn't passive, it's a recalibration of your entire physiology. And it's delicate. Too little sleep or sleep that's restless, fragmented. And these processes are interrupted. The cleanup is rushed, the files are scattered, the toxins linger. But when sleep flows, deep, uninterrupted, the cleaning crew does its job. Your brain glows with clarity, your body resets. You don't just feel rested, you feel right. And perhaps this is why across cultures and centuries, sleep has always been linked to purity, rebirth, even sacredness. In ancient Egypt, dreams were messages from the gods, yes, but sleep itself was a form of sacred return, a nightly cleansing of the soul. Temples dedicated to Asclepius, the Greek god of healing, often required visitors to sleep there in ritual silence to receive visions and healing in dreams. It wasn't superstition, it was reverence, an intuitive respect for what science now confirms: the sleeping body is not idle, it is restoring order. And here's something to reflect on. The cleaner the mind, the clearer the perception. This is why children who sleep more deeply and longer than adults often experience the world with such vividness. Their brains are constantly rebuilding, remapping, pruning. Their dreams are stranger, their imaginations brighter, because they are constantly resetting. And so can you. Each good night of sleep is a small return to balance. Each full cycle allows the world within you to quiet, tidy, and renew. Even as you dream, even now. And when you wake, you may not notice the waste that was cleared or the proteins that were repaired. But you'll feel the effects, a sharper memory, a steadier mood, a brighter outlook. That's what your sleeping brain has been doing for you, every night, silently, faithfully cleansing what the day left behind, preparing you not just to wake, but to begin again. So breathe in gently, let your body stay still. The final sweep is underway, the tide is receding, and when it returns, it will carry you toward the light. Your breathing is slow now, steady like a tide returning to shore. You're approaching the final full cycle of the night, the last pass through RM, the last unfolding of imagery before waking touches the edges of your awareness. The dream world feels thinner, lighter, more permeable, and as you drift here in the space between night and morning, there is one more secret to uncover. Because dreaming, in all its complexity and beauty, may not just be a byproduct of rest. It might be a biological necessity for creativity. Yes, the very thing that makes us human, the spark, the insight, the connection of ideas not obviously related, the ability to imagine what has never been before. And your sleeping brain has been practicing it every night. Think about it. When you dream, your mind does things that waking logic often resists. It fuses people and places, it bends time, it violates the rules of physics, language, and even identity. But it feels real, it carries meaning, it moves you emotionally. This is not noise, this is neural improvisation. Mainstream fact: during REM sleep, the prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for critical thinking and self-censorship, becomes less active. Meanwhile, areas like the amygdala and visual cortex become highly active. This shift creates a perfect stage for creative processing. Fewer filters, more emotional salience, and greater associative freedom. In other words, your brain becomes a surreal artist, fearless, raw, vivid. That strange dream where you rode a subway underwater with your childhood dog while your teacher from 10th grade played violin, that wasn't meaningless. It was your brain testing connections, making metaphors, drawing lines across your life's disparate threads. Artists, poets, inventors, all have drawn from this dream logic. Paul McCartney dreamt the melody to Yesterday. Mary Shelley's Frankenstein came in a dream. Otto Loewi, who discovered the role of neurotransmitters, dreamt his Nobel Prize-winning experiment twice. The list goes on. But it's not just the gifted few. You too are a dreamer, a builder of internal worlds. Each night your mind performs thousands of small acts of invention. Most are forgotten by a morning, but their effects linger in how you problem solve, empathize, speak, and imagine. Scientists still argue whether dreams exist for creativity, or whether creativity is simply a side effect of the brain's nightly maintenance. But what they do agree on is this: people who sleep deeply and dream vividly tend to be more creative by day. They think more divergently and they associate more freely. They trust intuition more naturally. And even beyond RM, other stages of sleep contribute. During NREM sleep, especially the light stages, your brain cycles through fragments of the day. But instead of organizing them chronologically, it shuffles them, like cards in a deck. This randomization helps you see familiar experiences from unfamiliar angles. A problem you couldn't solve earlier, a word that escaped you, a pattern that felt incomplete. Sleep works on it. Silently, subtly, quirky tidbit. Salvador Dali had a dream trick. He'd nap in a chair holding a metal key in one hand and a plate beneath it. As he slipped into the first seconds of sleep, his muscles would relax, the key would drop, and the clatter would wake him, capturing that microsecond of hypnagogic imagery between waking and sleep. He called it slumber with a key. He believed this moment held pure inspiration, and science supports him. The boundary between wake and sleep, the liminal zone, is rich with abstract thought. There, your brain is unfettered, drifting just enough to let ideas flow, but still tethered enough to remember them. Even dreams that seem nonsensical, where objects melt or people merge or time loops, contain creative potential. You're rehearsing flexibility, inventing symbolism, rewriting emotional truth. Your brain is not just remembering, it's imagining. This might be why dreams often include unresolved situations, arguments without conclusions, journeys without destinations. They're not puzzles with answers. They're simulations, training sessions, Your brain is teaching you how to live with the unknown, and perhaps that's the greatest creative skill of all. In a world that doesn't always make sense, your mind prepares you, through metaphor, emotion, and story, to find meaning anyway. This is the hidden labour of your dreaming self, to stretch you, to challenge you, to help you embrace ambiguity with grace. So when you wake and feel a strange inspiration you can't explain, a turn of phrase, a colour you suddenly love, an idea that blooms fully formed, it may not have come from nowhere. It may have arrived through the night, a gift carried from the deep by your dreaming mind. So don't rush to forget your dreams. They are more than flickers. They are blueprints of possibility. Listen for them, even when they're soft. Let their oddness nourish your thinking. Let their beauty sharpen your vision. And trust that your brain, even while you sleep, has been preparing you to see the world not just as it is, but as it could be. One final cycle, one final image, one more moment in that infinite space where imagination and rest are one and the same. The dreaming self is not separate from you. It is you, just wilder, braver, more free. And now, here you are, deep in the final spiral of sleep. The stars outside may still be hidden, the world around you hushed, but within your mind, the great orchestra of the night reaches its last swelling chord. You've travelled far, from the biological roots of sleep to the drifting clouds of dreams, from memory and identity to the quiet work of repair and invention. And here, in these last moments of slumber, everything that has unfolded throughout the night begins to gently fold itself away. This is the closing act, the sacred stillness before waking. But it is not just the end of sleep, it is the birth of integration. Because every night, as your brain moves through these stages, the slow waves of NREM, the vivid bursts of REM, it isn't just performing maintenance, it's building coherence, taking the fragments of your waking life, the thoughts, sensations, losses, triumphs, and threading them into a tapestry that makes sense to you. Not logically, but emotionally, existentially. And in this final cycle, your mind doesn't work as furiously. Instead, it listens. It listens to the stories it's told itself over the last few hours. It listens to the emotional arc it has followed. It listens to the shape of who you are. You may not remember these final dreams as clearly as the wild ones from earlier in the night, but they are among the most meaningful. They are quieter, simpler, sometimes mundane, a conversation, a walk, a feeling of peace, but they reflect the settling of your inner landscape. Your brain is summing up the night, and what it gives you before it lets you go is a sense of emotional wholeness, a kind of internal exhale. Even if your dreams were chaotic or challenging, this last REM cycle brings with it a peculiar softness, a sense that something has ended properly. Mainstream fact, research shows that the final REM stage, often the longest, is particularly rich in dreams with personal, autobiographical content. You are more likely to appear as yourself in recognizable settings, processing emotions tied to your real life. Your brain is not just exploring, it is editing your lived experience, and it is preparing to pass that new addition to your waking self. That's the remarkable part, because in a few short moments, or perhaps in the next hour, you'll wake. You'll open your eyes, hear the faint tick of the wall clock, feel the cool air on your skin, maybe smell the morning, maybe reach for a light, and you'll think you're simply back. But really you'll be changed by the dreams you may not remember, by the emotional work you didn't realize was happening, by the delicate, unseen choreography of a brain that never truly rests. Even now, as you lie here, neurons are firing in quiet preparation. Hormones are shifting. Your blood pressure is rising just a little, temperature regulating, muscles twitching slightly as atonia fades. You're approaching the threshold, and the threshold is sacred. Across cultures, there are rituals for waking, not because of superstition, but because of deep respect for this transition. In Tibetan Buddhism, practitioners begin each day with the four immeasurables: loving kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity. They see waking not as a return, but as a rebirth. In ancient Rome, dream interpreters would consult those who had just woken, believing that the moment of return held deep truths. And in modern neuroscience, we know now they were onto something. Because the first few minutes after waking hold a unique window of neural flexibility. Your brain is still open like damp clay, still shaped by the echo of dreams, still able to absorb new insights, form fresh associations, and reset emotional tone for the day. That's why intentional waking, slow breathing, light stretching, gratitude, gentle attention can transform not just your mood, but your mindset for hours. But the opposite is true as well. If you wake to stress, blaring alarms, screens, urgency, your body reacts. Cortisol floods your system, your nervous system leaps into fight or flight. And the gentle work of the night, the soft patterns your dreams etched into your emotional core, may fade before they're fully absorbed. This final part of sleep, then, is fragile and precious, which is why you're still here now, resting just a little longer, letting your mind finish what it began. Maybe you dreamed of someone you miss, or something you long for. Maybe your dream made no sense at all, a kaleidoscope of strange faces, impossible landscapes, familiar voices in unfamiliar bodies. It doesn't matter. What matters is that your brain, in its quiet genius, made meaning out of it. Even if you don't consciously understand the message, it has already been delivered. Not to your thinking self, but to your deeper self. The part of you that steers without speaking, and the part of you that knows without knowing how. Quirky tidbit. In some tribal communities in the Amazon, the day begins not with coffee or chores, but with the sharing of dreams. Families sit together, speaking aloud whatever they remember from the night. The community listens, laughs, nods. They believe dreams are not just personal but communal, that each dream carries a sliver of collective wisdom. What if you treated your dreams this way? What if instead of brushing them off, you pause to honour them? Even if you don't remember them in detail, the feeling is enough. That trace of emotion, that gut sense of something beautiful or strange or terrifying. That's your brain handing you a whisper of the night's wisdom. Don't toss it aside and let it linger, even just for a breath. And as this final dream flickers, as your body shifts slightly toward waking, remember this. Sleep has done more than rest you, it has recreated you. You are not the same person who closed their eyes hours ago. You are renewed, you are retuned, you are quietly, profoundly whole. And soon, when the light reaches your window, when the sounds of morning seep through the veil, you'll open your eyes and begin again. With a brain that has done the most tender work imaginable, it has dreamed you back into being. And now, the journey ends, not with a crash or a clang, but with the softest hush, a slowing, a stilling, a long, quiet exhale that folds the night back into itself. You've wandered across vast dreamscapes, touched the invisible workings of memory, identity, and imagination. You've listened to your brain's whispered languages of chemistry and story, of emotion and repair. And now, as you lie there, warm, unhurried, still held by the dark, there's nothing more you need to do. No more chapters, no more thoughts to follow, only the rhythm of your breath, the fading warmth of dreams, and the sense that something inside you, something vital, has been gently set right. Let your muscles soften now. Let your thoughts quiet. Let this final stillness be your shelter. Outside, the world may begin to stir, but you are safe here, in this liminal space between rest and return, between who you were when the night began and who you've quietly become. You don't need to understand it. You don't need to remember the dreams. You only need to receive their gifts, the calm, the clarity, the deep cellular assurance that you are enough, as you are. Right now, exactly here. So stay just a little longer. Breathe slowly. Feel the bed beneath you, the air on your skin, the rhythm of your own steady heart. And when you're ready, only when you're ready, Let your eyes open softly, like petals turning toward first light. Let the day begin gently. Let yourself begin again. Good night, dreamer, and good morning too.